It started with a single buzz on my phone, the usual notification from my security app. Nothing special, nothing scary, except it was 3:14 a.m. and I hadn't left my bed all night. I was lying on my side, half awake, scrolling through meaningless posts with the blanket pulled up to my chin. The house was completely silent. No traffic, no wind, just the occasional hum of the fridge downstairs. When the notification popped up, "Front door activity detected," I frowned and sat up slowly, the mattress springs creaking loud in the stillness. No one should have been there. I live alone, in a quiet cul-de-sac where nothing ever happens. There aren't even stray cats to set the camera off. Still, I tapped the notification and opened the feed. The motion light flicked on, bathing the front porch in a pale yellow glow. And then someone walked into frame. I froze. The figure was instantly, horribly familiar. Same hoodie, same jeans, same way of walking, slightly leaning to the left from an old ankle injury. The person on my porch looked exactly like me. For a moment, I thought it was a recording from some other night. But the timestamp was current. Live. On the screen, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a key. I could hear the faint jingle through the mic as I leaned toward the door and unlocked it. Then, I opened the door and stepped inside. But my front door never opened. I was still lying in bed, frozen, phone in one hand, heart hammering in my chest. I swung my legs off the bed and grabbed the baseball bat from under the frame. The floor felt icy under my bare feet as I crept down the hallway, every step loud and wrong. I kept expecting to hear the sound of footsteps, of someone moving around downstairs. But the living room was empty. The front door was locked. The chain was still in place. There was no one inside. I stood there in the dark living room for a long time, clutching the bat until my hand ached, staring at the door like it might open again. Finally, I sank onto the couch and replayed the video. And that's when I noticed something new. The way I walked up the steps, too smooth, almost gliding. The faint, strange smile curling at the corners of my mouth. And worst of all, right before I stepped inside, I turned my head toward the camera and grinned. Not a normal grin. It stretched too wide, showing too many teeth, as if the face on the screen didn't quite belong to me. I watched that clip at least 20 times before dawn. Each time it looked worse, like the smile was getting bigger every time I hit replay. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the dark with all the lights off, waiting, phone in one hand, bat in the other. Nothing else happened. By morning, I almost convinced myself it was a glitch, some old footage replayed by mistake, some corrupted data. I tried to act normal, made coffee, stood in front of the bathroom mirror brushing my teeth. But looking at my own reflection felt wrong now. Like the guy in the mirror knew something I didn't. All day I kept glancing at my phone, half hoping, half dreading another alert. By sunset my stomach was in knots. That night, I stayed downstairs. I turned off every light except the one over the kitchen sink, sat on the couch facing the front door, and opened the live camera feed. The porch was empty. The motion light stayed dark. Midnight passed. Then 1 a.m. Then 2:30. My eyelids were starting to droop when my phone buzzed again. Front door activity detected. The sound was like an electric shock. I shot upright and tapped the screen. At first, the porch was empty. Just the quiet glow of the light and the faint sway of a spiderweb in the corner of the frame. Then, from the left side of the screen, I walked into view again. But this time I didn't go to unlock the door. I just stood there, perfectly still under the motion light, head tilted slightly, staring straight at the camera. I watched for a full minute, heart thudding against my ribs, unable to look away. And then, without warning, I lifted a hand and waved. I didn't move for what felt like forever after that wave. The porch light clicked off, the feed went dark, but my eyes stayed glued to the screen until it timed out. My mouth was dry, my palms slick with sweat. I forced myself to get up and walk the house, every floorboard groaning like it didn't want me to. I double-checked every window latch, every door lock, even opened the closet doors one by one just to be sure I was alone. When I finally sat back on the couch, my hands were trembling so badly I nearly dropped the bat. The rest of that night was torture. Every creak sounded like footsteps. The fridge cycling on made me flinch so hard I knocked over a glass. At 4 a.m., I gave up pretending I could sleep. I sat in the living room with all the lights on until sunrise. By morning, my decision was made. I ordered 2 new cameras with express shipping, and paced the house until they arrived. When I set them up that evening, one in the hallway, one in the kitchen, I felt a small spark of control return. If it came back, I would catch it this time. I left every light off that night except for a single dim lamp in the living room. I sat on the couch with my phone open to the live feed, my heart racing with every shadow that moved outside. The house felt different tonight, heavier, like it was holding something in. Even my own breathing sounded too loud. Hours crawled by. 12:30 a.m. 1:15 a.m. The street outside stayed empty, the porch still and quiet. By 3 a.m., I was starting to convince myself it wouldn't happen again. And then my phone buzzed. Front door activity detected. My stomach lurched. I tapped the notification with shaking fingers. The porch light was already on, and there I was again, standing closer to the door this time, one hand on the knob. I watched as I twisted it slowly, metal clinking softly. The camera mic picked up the faint sound of my own breathing, too slow, too steady. Then, I leaned toward the lens until my entire face filled the frame. I saw my own eyes, unblinking, too wide, staring straight into mine. My lips curled into that same grin as last night. Then the feed cut to black. I scrambled to switch to the hallway camera. Empty. Kitchen feed, empty. Then the hallway light turned on by itself. My heart jumped into my throat. The feed showed the light swaying slightly, as if someone had just brushed against it. And then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. The sound was faint but unmistakable, each creak of the floorboards measured and patient. I gripped the bat so tightly my knuckles turned white. The steps stopped right outside my bedroom door. I held my breath. Then came 3 slow knocks. The hallway light flickered, went out, and the feed went black. Before I could react, my kitchen camera pinged. Someone was in there. The feed switched on, and I saw myself standing by the fridge, my back half turned to the camera. Slowly, I turned my head. Not all the way, just enough for my reflection to catch the glow of the motion light. Then I raised a finger to my lips and smiled. Shoo. The sound came through the mic this time, faint but unmistakable. I jumped to my feet, nearly dropping my phone. When I switched back to the hallway camera, the light flickered back on. And there, for just a single frame, my face appeared inches from the lens, mouth open in that awful grin. Then darkness again. For the next 30 seconds, all I could hear was faint breathing coming through the hallway mic, slow, steady, like it was waiting for me to move. And then, whispering. Dozens of voices, all at once, just under the edge of hearing. I couldn't make out the words, but I swear I heard my own name. I backed into the corner of the living room, clutching the bat, too scared to blink. And then the whispering stopped. The hallway feed flickered one last time. And in the final frozen frame, just before the light cut out completely, I saw my own shadow standing at the end of the hall, perfectly still, watching. I didn't leave the living room the next night. I didn't even try to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that frozen shadow at the end of the hallway from last night, and the way it just stood there, waiting. By sunset, I had turned my house into a fortress. Every door locked, every window latched, every camera feed open on my phone side by side. The bat lay across my lap, and a kitchen knife sat on the table within reach. I wasn't going to be caught off guard this time. The hours crawled. The house was so silent that I could hear the faint tick of the pipes cooling in the walls. I tried to distract myself with videos on mute, but I kept glancing at the feeds every 30 seconds. By 2:45 a.m., my stomach was in knots. I could feel it coming. I don't know how, but I just knew tonight wouldn't be quiet. At exactly 3:14 a.m., the phone buzzed. Front door activity detected. My heart lurched. I tapped the feed with shaking fingers. The porch light clicked on, and there I was again. But this time I wasn't just standing there. I was moving back and forth across the porch, slow and steady, like a caged animal pacing its pen. Each step echoed faintly through the mic. Then I stopped, turned toward the camera, and smiled. The grin stretched wider, impossibly wide, until it looked like the skin of my face was about to split. Then I lifted a hand and waved, slow, deliberate, like I knew I was being watched. But I didn't disappear this time. Instead, I walked out of frame, and a second later the kitchen camera pinged. I fumbled with my phone, switching feeds, and froze. I was inside, standing in the middle of the kitchen, perfectly still, my head tilted at an unnatural angle. The camera caught my shadow on the floor. Too long, stretching almost across the room. Then I moved. Slow, calm, toward the hallway. I switched to the hallway feed, my breath catching in my throat. There I was, stepping into frame one careful step at a time, closing the distance between me and the camera. No rush, no hesitation, just walking like I owned the place. Then I stopped under the hallway light and looked straight up into the lens. And smiled again. But this time, the feed stayed live. I didn't disappear. I stepped closer and closer until my face filled the frame, pale, stretched, grinning. Then I pressed my finger against my lips. Shoo! I nearly dropped the phone. When I looked up, the real hallway light was on, and I heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate, coming down the hall toward the living room. Each creak of the floorboards matched what I was seeing on the feed. My whole body shook. I crouched behind the couch, holding the bat in both hands, my ears straining for the next step. The footsteps stopped. For a moment, the house was dead silent. Then came the sound of breathing. Not mine. Not through the mic. Real breathing from the other side of the wall. Slow, calm, waiting. The living room light flickered once, twice, and went out. The only glow came from my phone, lying on the floor where I'd dropped it. I crawled toward it on shaking hands and picked it up. The hallway feed was still live, but now it was empty. I switched to the kitchen camera and froze. I was back in the kitchen. But this time, I was looking straight into the lens, not smiling, just staring with those two wide eyes. Then I slowly lifted my hand and pointed. Not at the hallway, at the living room, at me. The audio crackled, and through the tiny speaker came my own voice, but not quite right. Too deep, too slow. I see you. I nearly dropped the phone. When I switched back to the hallway camera, my blood ran cold. The feed showed me, standing directly behind the couch. My grin stretched ear to ear. And then the camera mic picked up a sound that made my skin crawl. The faintest whisper, right into the mic. Turn around. I didn't want to. Every muscle screamed not to. But I did. And there I was, standing in the doorway, head tilted, smiling that impossible smile. The phone slipped from my hands and hit the floor. The screen went black. I stayed crouched on the floor until my knees ached, staring at the faint glow of my phone like it was the only thing keeping me alive. The house was too quiet. So quiet that I could hear my own pulse thudding in my ears. Every creak of which sounded like it came from directly behind me. When I finally moved, it felt like wading through water. I grabbed the bat, my fingers slick with sweat, and switched between feeds. Hallway, empty. Kitchen, empty, but the chair had been turned completely around, facing the camera now. Porch, dark, nothing but the motion lights swinging slightly in the night breeze. I backed toward the front door, desperate to know I could leave. When my hand touched the deadbolt, the metal burned like ice. I hissed and jerked back, shaking my hand until the sting faded. Then my phone buzzed. Hallway camera. I tapped it with a trembling thumb. There I was, standing under the hallway light, perfectly still, head tilted back, staring at the attic door. Not smiling this time, just watching, waiting. I turned toward the real hallway. The attic door was open, a dark square yawning down at me. Then came the sound. Soft at first, the faint scratch of nails on wood. Then louder, dragging across beams. Dust sifted down, drifting in the air like snow. Another sound. A soft scuttle, as though something was crawling closer to the opening. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then something tapped on the inside of the attic door. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound was directly above me. And then, with a violent bang, the attic door slammed shut. The whole frame shook. Dust rained down on my shoulders. My phone glitched, static washing over the screen. When it cleared, all 3 cameras were live at once. On the porch feed, I was standing in the yard, just beyond the light, my head bent at a wrong angle. On the kitchen feed, my face was pressed so close to the lens that fog bloomed on the glass. On the hallway feed, I was standing at the very edge of the frame, almost stepping out of view. Then the images shifted. On the porch camera, I stepped onto the porch. On the kitchen camera, my hand slowly smeared across the lens, leaving a greasy streak. On the hallway feed, I stepped closer until my face was half in shadow, half in light, smiling faintly. The audio was a mess of whispers, overlapping until it sounded like dozens of people talking at once. Then one voice cut through, My voice, but slower, deeper. Open the door. My blood ran cold. The real deadbolt clicked. Once, twice. Unlocking itself with a slow, metallic snap. I spun toward the front door, heart hammering. The handle shivered like someone was testing it from the other side. My phone buzzed with a new notification. Not, front door activity detected. This one just said, let him in. I stood frozen, barely breathing, afraid to even blink. Then the cameras flickered again. On the hallway feed, I was now right under the attic door, looking straight up. On the kitchen feed, I had stepped back, giving a slow, deliberate wave. On the porch camera, I was no longer on the porch. I was right outside the door, so close my eye filled the frame. The audio went silent. For 10 agonizing seconds, there was nothing. No creak, no whisper, just dead silence. I could hear my heartbeat like a drum. And then came the sound. 3 slow, heavy knocks. The whole house seemed to vibrate with each one. Pictures rattled on the wall, the lamp flickered. The knock stopped. I slowly turned toward the window by the door. For a split second, I saw my own reflection in the glass, but it didn't match me. It smiled when I didn't. And then it raised a hand and pointed behind me. I spun around, phone shaking in my hand. The hallway light was off, but the camera feed showed me standing there in the dark, smiling wider than ever. Then every light in the house flashed on at once, flooding the hall in blinding white. My phone buzzed one last time. Time's up. The door handle began to turn. The handle turned so slowly it felt like a clock counting down. Click. Pause. Click. My chest ached from holding my breath. Then, suddenly, silence. I stayed frozen for what felt like a full minute before I dared to move. My phone screen glowed in my shaking hands. Hallway feed, empty. Kitchen feed, empty. Porch feed, dark. I almost let myself exhale. Then the porch feed flickered. And there I was. Inside. Standing just beyond the front door, facing the camera from the inside of the house. My grin stretched too wide, showing too many teeth. Slowly, I raised a hand and tapped the lens from the other side, leaving a smudge. The hallway camera came alive next. I was there too, walking toward the living room in calm, measured steps. Each footstep echoed through the mic. Then I stopped, turned toward the camera, and mouthed something. This time the audio caught it. I'm already here. My stomach dropped. I backed away until I hit the window. I thought about climbing out, running, anything, but when I looked at my reflection, I froze. It was smiling, and it wasn't moving with me. Its head tilted on its own, slow and deliberate. I stumbled back, heart slamming against my ribs. The phone buzzed. All 3 feeds went live at once. On the porch camera, I was now standing outside the window, staring in. On the kitchen feed, I was crouched on the floor, crawling toward the hallway in jerky, unnatural movements. On the hallway feed, I was standing completely still, just at the edge of the frame, barely visible, but watching. The audio glitched, overlapping whispers turning into static, then clearing into one loud voice. Open the door. The real deadbolt clicked. Once, twice, sliding open by itself. I lunged for the phone app to call 911, but the screen froze. A moment later, my own voice came through the speaker. You shouldn't have done that. The call ended before it even rang. Then, a creak behind me. I spun around, bat raised. The hallway light was on, and I was standing there, not on the screen. In real life, my grin stretched impossibly wide. My head tilted until my ear nearly touched my shoulder. Then, slowly, I took one step forward. I backed into the corner of the living room, clutching the bat, shaking so hard I could barely breathe. Then the lights flickered and went out. Total darkness. For a long, horrible moment, there was nothing but silence. Then came the breathing. Not one breath, dozens. All around me, above me, inside the walls. The phone on the couch lit up by itself. All the cameras came online at once. And this time it wasn't just 3 of me. It was dozens. Dozens of versions of me standing in every doorway, every corner, some smiling, some just watching. One of them was hanging upside down from the attic opening, staring directly at me. The sound that came through the speakers was a chorus, my own voice layered 100 times, whispering in perfect unison. We've been here longer than you. The images began to move closer on every camera, all the versions of me stepping forward in perfect sync, closing in. The light of the phone screen was the only illumination left, and it was getting dimmer. Something cold brushed my leg, then my shoulder, then the back of my neck. The hallway camera showed me stepping right up to the couch, then leaning down until my face filled the entire frame. My grin was so wide it looked like it split my cheeks. Then every light in the house snapped on at once. And there I was, right in front of me. No camera, no feed. My face inches from mine, smiling, breathing in perfect time with me. Then my voice, low, distorted, filled the room. You let us in. Every light in the house blew out at once, plunging me into perfect black. The last thing I felt was a cold hand closing around my wrist and pulling, hard, before the phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. The screen stayed lit just long enough to show me one last frame. Every version of me in the house smiling at once. And then, darkness.